So tell me about how long have you been shaping boards for, Chris?
This is year 16 for me. Yeah.
16.
So I
Nice.
started in
Um,
2005, and this is 2020. So this is year 16.
wow. It moves pretty quick, huh?
Yeah, it's hard to even. I mean, I remember that first board like it was yesterday, but when I think back over all the boards and all the different changes in surfboard design, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. How was the first board? Did it work?
Oh yeah, beautiful. That's what got me hooked. I was like, this is something I can do and not mess up. And I also really enjoy it. You know, I love working with my hands, and then I also love surfing. So when you put those two together, I was in love.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's the deal then? Did you grow? I mean, obviously you've been a surfer for most of your life. You grew up you're in San Diego area now. Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. So originally was a little not landlocked, but locked from good surf.
Yeah.
It's hard to get into surfing if you're from San Francisco. The waves aren't super beginner friendly. So I first stood up in Lahaina Harbor in Maui when I was 13 on a family trip and was obsessed with surfing ever since then, and would go on different family trips to Hawaii. And then when I got my driver's license at 16, I started driving to Santa Cruz every weekend as much as I could, throw my brother, all the friends in the car, and we just drive over the 17 freeway and drop into Santa Cruz for even a day and just surf our brains out and get back by nighttime. And then when I applied for colleges, I was like, this is a great opportunity to put myself in a better surfing situation. So I ended up in San Diego and haven't left.
That's awesome. Yeah, I made a similar decision when I got into wakeboarding. I chose my college based on like where was the vicinity to water basically, and ended up on a chain of lakes, a college that's on a chain of lakes. I was like, yep, that's the one for me.
We probably have a bunch of mutual friends. I was a competitive water skier through college, so
that's right. We talked about that. And did you spend any time? Did you travel a bit for it? It sounds like if you were competitive, right?
Yeah, we went to nationals all 4 years of college for me and all stars. So yeah, I got around to a lot of the colleges and different lakes around the country and small towns that you never heard of. Well, you've heard of, but nobody else has heard of.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're all just chasing water, man. That's like, you know, we grew up in Orlando, and like we would have been surfers if we could have, but we were stuck on lakes. So we ended up just like, all right, how do we get that same feeling? Like, I know I love the water and I want to ride across it. So for us, it ended up being boats. But yeah, I mean, there's still nothing, especially getting, you know, aging a bit more and getting beat up from everything we've done. It's like something about surfing is so pure, man. And like, you know, being out there and seeing, you know, everything from like a 12-year-old Grom to like a 70-year-old guy, you know, all on one break is like, this is rad. Like I could get into this for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, so who would you say is the most exciting surfer you've had the chance to work with in shaping boards? Like who's that kind of like, have you had any just, wow, how did I get here type moments?
Yeah, and I can name like a handful for all completely different reasons. You got to start with Kelly Slater. Having an opportunity to shape a board for him and talk to him about surfboard design has to be one of the top highlights. From a design, just a really gearhead focused, technology focused side, Kai Lenny's been amazing to work with just because he's so dialed into his gear on another level and understands it really well as well. There's some female surfers that I've had the opportunity to work with on completely different things. So it kind of spans the spectrum, but yeah, some really cool stories throughout the years.
That's awesome. No, I know I've seen on your Instagram a couple clips. You had the chance to go to the surf ranch too and build some boards there. Is that right?
Yeah, I have been to the surf ranch for three times now. Haven't got to surf it yet, so that's the first question I get. Like, did you get to surf it? No,
the most obvious question. Surf
it, yeah. But no, I've got to shape there a bunch, and it's really cool to, from an R&D perspective, to see boards come through there and get the quick feedback. You can even see right now how much board testing is going on there. It's a perfect use for it. I've been to Waco and done, that version of R&D, and just the exponential learning that you get from testing equipment on waves like that is really, really good.
Oh, I imagine that's like, yeah, I mean, if you have a wave that's the same every single time, you can rule out immediately the factors of like, was it the power of the wave or the shape of the wave? Like no, the wave's the same. Like what you're comparing apples to apples with your boards because you have one constant at least the whole time, right?
Yeah, for sure. So you have that control element, which is almost impossible to find in the ocean. It's not the end all be all, obviously, but it's a great place to just R&D from a materials side to shapes and curves. Like you can really match the curve of the wave to the curves of the board, which is how I begin all design. And then you can just put it to the test over and over and over again and get so many repetitions in such a short period of time that from a athletic training perspective, it's amazing. And then from a board R&D perspective, it's just as incredible.
Yeah. Oh man, that's rad. What do you do when so like, I guess as it relates to kind of your adventures in the app, you've got your mobile shaping studio. Is that something that, like, if you're going and shaping at Kelly's Wave up there, you take that rig up with you and just?
Yeah, that rig's been everywhere, and it's been really cool to bring shaping to people, especially in environments like that. So when we first started Shaper Studios, we were bringing surfboard shaping out from the industrial parks to neighborhoods and, out of the shadows, really. And then the mobile version of that was even more impactful because we would try to go to events and try to tell people what we do and try to demonstrate surfboard design and bring it out, but it wasn't the same as seeing it live. And so when we had the opportunity to create the mobile version, that allowed people to really get up close, and sometimes in the most least expected areas. I'm trying to think of like a really crazy event that we've done. We've done like music festivals. Oh, the desert's probably, Joshua Tree was probably a really out there experience. To shape in the middle of the Mojave Desert is in like 120-degree hot box is like pretty, and it's also pretty mind-blowing, this juxtaposition, this surf water culture thing in the middle of the desert with Joshua trees all around. Beautiful, beautiful aesthetic, but really kind of mind-blowing. So we've taken it really up from the surf ranch where it makes a lot of sense to Joshua Tree.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, you definitely get an exposure to good, people who probably lots of people who have seen it before, but like get new eyeballs at the same time. Like, people who end up there and they're like, well, never expect to find a surf. What's this guy doing making a surfboard here, and draws intrigue for sure. Right. So, that's pretty cool. What about so how's it go? Like, say, like for me, I've never shaped a surfboard. Like, how's the session go? Is it like, am I going to pull something out that's rideable at the end of it? Or like you're going to be there to help, I would assume, right?
Yeah, there's three parts to it. So there's the pre-session, kind of download, get to know each other, get to know what you're looking for. And that's kind of like a pre-session consultation. And so we kind of know each other before we step in there. And then the meat and potatoes is that time you get to build your own board, and there's somebody there with you the entire time that knows how to do it. And by breaking it down in steps, it's actually not that difficult. There's things that are far more difficult. Like surfing is far more difficult than shaping a surfboard. Like think about if you had never surfed before and you take your first surf lesson, the learning curve there about learning the waves in the ocean and carrying this board around and getting thrown out, like that takes so much longer to master than building a good board. And when there's an instructor there sitting there with you side by side, step by step, and you break it down, it's pretty simple. And so that's been really fun. And then there's the after shaping portion where you get to pick up your board and it's finished and complete and fiberglass and you have your signature on it and you take it out for the first time. And that's where the whole experience comes full circle. You're like, whoa, I just made a turn in the water on a wave with something I made with my own hands. Like that is next level. And something that kept me coming back to shaping surfboards. And for a lot of our students, it's the same experience.
That's awesome. How long does it take? Like, is it like, are you like, if you start to finish of actually like, okay, we've got the block of foam, like we're going to make the board, like, can you shape the whole thing in one session and then glass afterwards, or?
Yeah, we've got it down to doing a one-on-one lesson in 4 hours. So we break it up 2 hours to get to the first half, and then we take a little break, go for a surf or have a little lunch break, and then come back and finish the second half. So if you started in the morning, you're home for lunch. If you start afternoon, you're home for dinner. Like, it's not a huge commitment. Now, if you were to walk into your garage with a piece of foam and no instructor, different story. Like, it's a different story, different outcome, different experience. And you hear a lot of people like, man, it's so hard. And you're like, yeah, I understand why it'd be so hard. Like, you don't even know where to start. So it's not actually that hard. It's really fun. It's really engaging. You get to try pretty simple tools. So we have a good time doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's like one thing I've learned, and not necessarily with like building surfboards because I haven't built one yet, but like with any job or like thing you're building, it's like, it's always good to do it with a pro the first time, because there's so many things you see, like even if it's like putting pavers in the driveway and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, if I just would have known about that one tool, like it could change everything, you know what I mean? So like the power of just, knowing, and like somebody who's done it over and over and like made all the mistakes and can prevent you, kind of steer you away from those. That's like a lifesaver, right? And making sure it's a hit the first time.
Yeah, and also I think putting it in perspective too, that it's going to take several boards for you to really get self-sufficient. So even if you're brewing beer for the first time, you go over and you go with a buddy that's brewed beer and you figure out like, okay, that was pretty easy and smooth. Like if they handed you all that equipment and we're like, okay, now your turn, you do it yourself, no help. You'd still have like those things where you're like, I think it was this, but I'm not sure. Like it just takes repetition, just like anything. And surfboard shaping is the same. So the goal is to wean you off of needing that instructor all the time. But board number 2, you're going to need help, but maybe half as much help. Board number 3, maybe a quarter as much help. And then board number 4, pop in and out with a couple questions here and there. So it's just like a process that you have to go through, just like learning anything. But if I said, like, the cool thing about where I'm at 16 years of doing it, shaping, glassing, sanding, the whole thing, I still learn something new every single time I carve into a piece of foam. And that's what keeps you coming back, is it's endless learning and endless mastery. So that's pretty fun.
That's rad. Have you tried you mentioned you've worked with Kai a little bit. Have you done any foil boards yet?
No, I kind of stick to, right now I'm even, kind of when I first started, I was trying a lot of different things. I shaped wake surfboards. I shaped hybrids. Rob Machado did this thing one time where it was like a hybrid surfboard, snowboard. And so I did a surfboard, snowboard, wakeboard combination. I mean, I tried everything, right? So after 16 years, I'm trying to really focus on one thing and where I can, as the designer, where I can make a contribution. So I'm trying to really, working with guys like Kai, he's already working with a lot of great folks on foil boards, and his foil boards are light years beyond anyone else's, and all of his equipment is pretty high level. But I am working on something with him that has never been done before, and so that's where I feel like I'm making a good use of his time and my time. So to answer your question, no foil boards yet.
So okay.
Probably never.
I had to ask because I'm at heart loyal to the foil, like our buddy Kai. But I love that he, like you said, you're working on something new with him that's not been done before. Like that's what I love about like him in particular. Like he's never been scared of any, like he'll try anything and like doesn't care if it's cool, not cool, what the stigma is around it, and like he's kind of broken so many molds recently. I feel like in, you know, just in water sports in general, like it's okay to be, you know, a surfer with straps and a windsurfer and a foiler and also go out and whoop everybody's, you know, like freaking be the king of every type of fun on the water, you know? So it's pretty cool to see what sort of doors that's opened, you know?
Yeah, I think he's a unique character in that space because you can tell like he really embodies that waterman spirit where nothing's off limits and he's not tied to any sort of contracts that put him in a certain lane or keep him in like some protective bubble. He kind of bursts that bubble and he's like, I'm open to anything, but he also has a knack for really understanding what he's getting into. So if he's trying something and you're seeing it, you know, on Instagram, he could only be a couple of tries into it and trying something completely new, but he didn't do it just because of the novelty or because it looked like experimental. He already kind of intuitively knew that it would work to some extent, and he's just got to fine tune it and tweak it. He's just really in tune with everything, and that's what, from a design standpoint, it's so cool to work with guys like that aren't like confined to a contract. Well, oh, I can't work with you because I'm working with this guy. I'm like, well, that guy doesn't know how to do this, and so Kai's really, as opposed to other professional athletes that are locked in contractually to one thing or another, he's kind of opened his eyes to a lot of different things and surrounded himself with people who are really on the same plane as him, from an intellectual and functional standpoint. And to your point, it doesn't really matter what's cool, it's function first. Like, is this going to increase performance? Is it going to be a new feeling on the water? Is this going to push the level of the sport and water activities to another level? And I really applaud him for doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like watching him, you know, when he was doing those strapped 360s and stuff at Jaws, is just like, are you like, like it's like just the most insane thing. Everybody else is trying to survive, and here we go, like, boom, let me bust a, you know, freaking backside 360, 50 feet far down the wave, and just, you know, it's like unreal. So it's pretty cool.
The Nazare stuff he was doing in competition was pretty in like groundbreaking. Like, we're watching the whole sport just change before our eyes through that guy. Like, watching him do that sort of 360 stuff at Nazare in a big wave competition where there's so much on the line, that's out of control. It's unheard of.
That's crazy. Well, cool. So how many, let's, here's a good kind of, I guess, stat. So how many boards would you say, I mean, you're shaping full time, I assume. How many boards would you say you build in a year?
That's actually a good question. I don't shape full time. I shape a very limited number of boards for specific people. I have done, so I kind of have two projects. I have Shaper Studios, which is teaching, and I'll always do that. That's kind of open source for the public, for events with the mobile shaping bay, for Adventure.io, experiences that people are looking to get there. Then I have my own project, which is high performance asymmetry. So an article came out in Surfer Magazine, the March issue, and it's online now, which talks about the future of asymmetrical surfboards and in high performance surfboards, which has never been done before. And so that's what I'm focused on and working on right now. And so I work with a small group of elite level surfers, both male, female, pro tour, off the tour, aerial surfers, and designing boards for them. And so right now it's a very small group. And then I'm doing about 10 a month for customers. And I'll keep it at that level for the rest of the year.
Cool. That's rad. It makes sense or it makes sense, the asymmetric stuff. I mean, if you're, I guess, I don't know if maybe you can explain a little bit more, but in my mind, like if I'm always going to go right at a certain break or whatever, or, you know, like, do I need the same shaped rail on the, you know, on the heels as I do on the toes?
Yeah. So look at the constants. Like we just talked about with the wave pool, the constants in your board riding are that in a different, and you understand this more than anyone, you wakeboard, you probably snowboard, skateboard, surf, you do all of it. The one difference in all of those is surfing, you'll never change your stance. In all the other board sports, beyond beginner level, you have to be able to ride and start and land tricks both ways. Surfing, no matter what level you're at, that's not the case. And so one constant that you have is your stance. Your stance will never change. You'll always have a toe side and a heel side, whether you're going front side or back side, whether you're going right or left on a wave, the constant is your stance never changes. And so when designing the equipment around your stance, now you have a right foot forward and a left foot forward stance to work with. And how can you optimize that equipment to improve the performance of that equipment based on your stance? So it's going to be different pressure points, different weight balances in the equipment that people have never taken into consideration because they're always worried about making a board perfectly symmetrical down the middle. They're disregarding the fact that your stance is completely different, whether you're goofy or regular footed.
Yeah. So would you have like a board for lefts and a board for rights, or would you design each rail like, okay, this is how you optimize the heel side rail versus the toe side, and it's all in one board?
So there's 3 levels of asymmetry. There's, when you go to select a board for a surf session, right, you're looking at 3 different things. You're looking at the wave. So what size is it? You're going to go longboarding, you're going to go shortboarding, whatever. So you're picking your board based on the wave shape and the conditions. And then you're basing it on, is this a point break? So am I only going to surf this wave one direction or the other? And so subconsciously, you're making a decision on your equipment by what board you like to say. Are you goofy or regular?
I'm regular.
You're regular. So say you're at Pavones, right? A left breaking wave. You're never going to surf it right, going right. You're going to surf it backside the entire time. So subconsciously, you're thinking to yourself, what board do I like to ride backside? You're subconsciously picking an asymmetrical board in that essence. But you don't really realize it. And then there's another level, which is, can I optimize my board for directional, so-called directional symmetry? So that's what you're talking about, where Josh Kerr at Chopu in 2015 and 2016 designed a board that he knew he would only be going backside at Chopu on, because he's a regular footed surfer.
Yeah.
So his board was directional asymmetry. So it was asymmetrical first based on his stance, but then it was directional based on the fact that he'd only be riding backside, heel side, going left. So there's 3 different dimensions to it. But I think what any surfer, say you were the average surfer who only had 1 board in your quiver, you're just like, hey, this is my daily driver. I take it out no matter what the waves are, going right, left, point break, beach break, doesn't matter. I have my short board, whatever that may be. The thing you're not taking into consideration is that your regular footed shortboard, the same board, and my goofy footed shortboard should be designed, from the design principles, should be designed completely different. For example, golfing. Are you right-handed golfer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're in the 90 percentile. There's about 8% of golfers that are left-handed. They would never go golfing with a right-handed club, right? And they would never go golfing with a symmetrical club that you could swing both ways.
Yeah. That's a great analogy for it.
So golf equipment, in the 80s and 90s, when there was prolific professional golfers that were left-handed, now when you walk into a golf shop, you can buy left-handed or right-handed golf clubs. Surfing has just never done that. Guitars, same thing. Back in the Jimi Hendrix era, he had to play a guitar upside down and backwards. Nowadays, when you go into a guitar shop, or if you look at all major guitar manufacturers, they will make both a right-handed guitar and a left-handed guitar same price. So they've optimized your guitars. So surfing is the exact same thing, and different than all other board sports in the fact that there's right foot forward surfers and left foot forward surfers.
Yeah, dang. That's a good way to think about it. I wonder, what do you think it would be? Personally, I would take a guess there's more regular footed board sport riders. Would you agree, or what's your thoughts there?
In surfing, I have all the statistics on the elite level surfers. So I took all the data from the last 20 years of men's surfing and the last 20 years of women's surfing. And so I'm the only one that's crunched that data on how many goofy versus regular surfers there are at the elite level. And that's who I'm designing boards for. So that's the data points that I have. There's no other data points out there for surfers. There's a few for skateboard athletes because they belong to skate parks, and so you can get the skate park data, goofy versus regular, and that's around 60-40. Surfing is like you said, there's far more regular footed surfers than goofy, but it's still a worthy number. It's more than golf. Like there's way more goofy footed surfers than there are left-handed golfers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Cool, man. Well, hey, let's shift gears real quick. I know you've been doing, last time I saw you, which was actually also the first time I ever saw you, the first time I met you face to face, we were at the Lululemon store opening in San Diego. You've been super involved with them lately. Tell us how that's been. It looks like is it just recently you've become an ambassador, or give us a story?
No, I'm coming up on 2 years actually.
Okay.
It'll be 2 years this summer as a ambassador, and I have another year on my contract with them. And then what happens, we become legacy ambassadors. So we won't be on the brand ambassador program. It will pass the torch and let somebody new come on the program, but we'll stay on, and there's a core group of us that will graduate from that. And it's a really cool network of people that are up to rad shit, like just game changers, movers, shakers, entrepreneurs. Some are in the fitness industry, some are cooking professionals, some are, they're all just really, they're all different too. So it's not like they're choosing like the same people and having this like, everybody's cookie cutter the same. There's a lot of different folks. Like I'm not the biggest hippie yogi person on the planet. I love yoga. I love the performance aspects of yoga, but I couldn't tell you, much deeper than the downward dog, and I'll sit through the class and I'll do it. And I love what yoga does for me, but I'm not at the yoga extreme. And there's plenty of folks in the program that are. So yeah, it's just a really cool thing to be a part of. The brand is supportive of us from the product side all the way through us as entrepreneurs and visionaries to support us in those, just kind of what our dreams are and helping us reach those potentials. So the product supports me from as a surfer. I think they make the best board short on the planet, and quietly they do that. Nobody really knows that. But I enjoyed the fact that they catered to me as a surfer. And then from loungewear around the house to going for a run to professional attire, I can wear a nice button-up shirt with some polished slacks, shirt tucked in. Like I can look the business part as well, all within the same brand. And that was really cool for me as I mature in my career and I mature as a professional and also as an athlete. The brand just has really supported me in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome, man. No, it was a special feeling at that. Well, first of all, congratulations. I mean, it's awesome to be a part of it. But yeah, it was, really one of my first experiences being that close with the brand at that kind of, it was like the advanced opening, like introducing the ambassadors, and they make people feel good, man. Like it was just super cool to see. Some really cool people showing up, and it's just like, wow, man, it kind of feels like this leaf is turning in the industry or in the action sports industry, at least, of like, these younger brands coming in that are just, they're connecting really well, like with the community, and they're like really helping people out. I mean, everybody's making rad gear now, and it's cool to see kind of some new people jumping into the scene and like supporting this active experiential lifestyle, so I'm always, a big fan seeing anything they're doing or you guys are getting up to with them. And yeah.
The biggest thing is, they're an inclusive brand. Like their price point might be out of reach for a lot of folks, so it might get this rap of being exclusive, but internally it's a very inclusive brand. It's very open to different walks of life. The diversity that we have in communities, they're really intentional about going in and making sure that they speak to a lot of different people, and it's not just like a homogeneous sort of situation. And so I think that's what you felt, is maybe coming from the outside, not being inside the brand, you immediately felt welcome. And that's something that I looked for in anything I ever did with Shaper Studios, for example. There's a great, people are intimidated to walk in and shape a surfboard. Like, it's just walking into a surf shop's intimidating. Just the amount of history and culture there, and for a new person to enter the sport of surfing is super, super intimidating.
Yeah.
And so we built the brand as being super inclusive. It doesn't matter how good of surfer you are, you get the same treatment, because we like, for my personal story, I wasn't on the high school surf team. I didn't compete in surfing growing up like all the groms around here did. I'm an outsider. I'm in the outside crowd, but I have just the same amount, if not more, love for the act of surfing than maybe somebody who's just in it for the competitive reasons. Not to say either one's right or wrong, but I wanted to create something that was inclusive and inviting to the folks that might not have felt as a part of it as someone else. So Lululemon really pairs with my experience really well, and I hope that's what you felt too.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's awesome. And like, yeah, and even like Southern California in general, like I'm not from there. Like, it can be you walk around, you're like, gosh, everybody's so cool, man. Like, how do I break into this town? So it's rad to go someplace like that and feel welcome. And that's also too, like, I was actually just on a previous call, and one thing that we, are stoked to have you on board with the app. It's like that kind of, the whole community of people within Adventure.io as well. It's like, these are the people that you can go with and like feel welcome. Like, it was one of the reasons we started it, was like, there's nothing worse than going to some town and knowing nobody and not knowing where to go or what to do. And you're like, hey, I'm here. I know there's people like me here, but I just can't figure out like how to make it happen and get out there. So, to be able to show up in San Diego and hang out with someone like you and learn how to make a board, and in the process probably go surf with you and find the right break, and meet a couple friends. Like, all of a sudden it's like, wow, man, I feel like a local.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I don't know. That's kind of what it's all about, I guess.
We always said we don't sell surfboards. We sell an experience first and foremost. And I would tell all the instructors as they came through, and I almost didn't have to tell them, because they were all, for some reason, the business attracted just those types of people. They get that. But I was like, if you come out of a 4-hour lesson with somebody, you better know the last 3 girls they dated, their last 3 surf trips, their last surfboard. Like, that was what we were selling. People wanted to come in and have that experience and that sort of connection. The surfboard just happened to get made while we were talking about cool stuff and like getting, hitchhiking on some surf trip through Baja, like that was more important. And that was the value that somebody got out of the experience. And then they're like, oh, that went by real quick. That's 4 hours just flew, and the board looks great. And you're like, yeah, we're buds now. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah. And that's the best thing to go home with, is like, yeah, you got the surfboard as this memento, but at the same time, you're like, now I got these new, I got this new bro in California. Like, oh, let me check in and see what Chris is up to or whatever. Like, it's just a cool feeling to know, like, even for me, like, I've always wanted to go to the surf ranch and I haven't gone, but I'm like, well, I know Chris has been, so it's like, there's some cool, like, kind of feeling in that connection of like,
Sure.
Just like, I don't know, it's nuts. What's that rule of like 7 or whatever, right? That everybody knows everybody, and a matter of 7 connections or whatever. But yeah, man, that's what it's all about. So, well, dude, I appreciate you taking the time. Just stoked to learn more about what you do and what we can do with you. I hope that you're staying sane during this whole time. Maybe we could end with a couple, maybe there's some good recommendations for entertainment. I don't know. Like, what have you been doing for, how are you getting by in this thing? Podcast, Netflix, what's your go-to?
So I got into running in November, and not much of a reader, but I invested in a pair of AirPods so that I'd have something to do on some of these longer runs. And so I've been doing Audible, so audible.com, and I just like download books, and I've read more books in the last 2 months than I've read in the last like 15 years. And I feel so good. I'm just like crushing books and absorbing knowledge, and it's been really cool. So between running and listening to audiobooks, that's been my thing.
That's
But
awesome.
being creative, like a lot of people, you say like, oh yeah, I'm trying to stay busy. I'm trying to stay busy. Busy is one of those words that I just axed from my vocabulary in January of this year. I read a book about like the elimination of hurry from your life. And so I've axed the word like, what are you up to? Like, oh man, I've been so busy. You hear that from everybody. I'm like, get it out of my vocabulary. Like I've been focused on getting creative. Like if it's coming up with like business venture ideas or surfboard concepts or you know, anything I can do to stimulate creativity during this time, I'm like, dude, take advantage of it, because without this pause button, you have ideas in your head, you never make time to do them. Now I have so much time. I'm like, okay, put the pencil to the paper, like let's go, let's get creative. So that's been helping me a lot.
Yeah, that's been the one kind of, I feel like, sort of blessing in disguise of the pandemic situation for me, is like, I've usually traveled so much, and I'm like in this kind of like passing by with my wife and kids, like, oh yeah, I'll be here, but I'm out Thursday. And it's really nice to just be like, I'm home. And people are like, what's your schedule? You're like, it's nothing, I'm here, you know? So, I mean, as much as I am excited for this to be over so we can all get out and do rad stuff, there's something, you know, nice about this pause button to, like you say, like be able to like focus and, you know, really take care of things or get creative. And yeah, man, no, that's awesome. And I like I'm the same way. Like I can't sit still to read a book. So the AirPods are a total, like my thing. I'm out in the garden weeding with the AirPods in, like podcasting or whatever it is. But I'm like, I got to go outside to stay sane. I know I can't go too far, but yeah, you know, having those AirPods is kind of the, you know, that's pretty crucial right now, I feel like, for keeping it going while you can stay active. So, well, dude, thank you so much for the time. I'm stoked to learn more. We're obviously super excited to have you on the platform, and we look forward to, you know, slowly easing back into things and getting out there and hopefully building a board that we can, you know, progress on and learn something about it in the process.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. No, we're stoked, like I say. So yeah, have a good weekend, and we'll catch you soon, dude.
All right, sounds good.
Later.
Cheers, man.